bud.
Adam.
You better not. You better not.
Watch this.
I'm watching, man. I'm watching you like a hawk. I'm watching you like a hawk. What is up, everybody? Welcome into the DNVR Nuggets Podcast.
Let's go.
Dev
You gotta shut up, man.
Is that the new Eagle screech? It's gotta be. You gotta keep doing that forever. Dev, promise me you'll do that forever.
Dev likes.
Oh, God. God, dude.
I actually think I'm with Harrison on this.
It's like he's like Baby Yoda or something.
He's going to turn into Borat soon. It's my way. Like a thing where you're like, oh, God.
We're presented as always by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Use promo code DNVR whenever you sign up and gamble along with us. Whatever it is you want to gamble along with. I've got the homies with me, man. I got the squad with me today. Over here, the man with the wind in his hair. The beautiful one. It's Harrison Wind.
It's Rocky Hour, fellas.
Is it really? Where's it at?
It's Rocky Hour.
It is midnight, actually. You're right. It is midnight. Do we have
It's right there.
Man, crack it open, man. We just got back from a great dinner. You got
Oh,
us.
boy.
Man, another just great dinner with the fellas.
Another great dinner with the fellas. Over here.
Oh, thank you, Kale.
I've got the swollen one. It's D-line.
That's true. It could be applied to any one of us. I'm happy to carry that mantle. Let's go, guys. Let's drink Rocky. What are we doing?
Why
Let's
not?
just
When in Rome.
When in Rome, get dangerously drunk. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you're going to get drunk, but you might, share a beverage a little bit just to talk a little more clearly. Over here, Dev likes.
I'm in another country with my fellas. I'm at home with my boys, so of course it's a great night. I'm ready for the show.
What's it like to be the most popular man in the world, Dev?
I'm the most popular man in Belgrade.
Maybe in the world, though. I don't know.
Maybe in Eastern Europe.
It's been awesome.
In the Balkans.
My brothers that I've always been happy for, they're not as excited for me to have this type of,
Back home, you're not feeling the love?
No, he's talking about us on this panel.
I'm talking about you guys.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. We're not excited for his newfound fame.
I definitely love
Apparently.
it. I definitely love it because I'm with my people, and my people love me. I love them.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for you. I'm very, very happy for you.
I'm part of the first part. I'm not happy for him at all.
Yeah. And you guys can catch us tomorrow. We're going to be on N1, I think, in the morning. We'll be on RTS, I think, in the afternoon. So you never know. You turn on your televisions, turn on your YouTube, turn on everything, open up the papers. We'll be there. Guys, before we get started, though, I do want to remind you that we have a meetup tomorrow. I mean, of course, tomorrow is our last day in Belgrade. Can you believe it's already the last day? It's simultaneously been the fastest, flown by, and also we've been here a long time.
A long time, yeah. We've taken up residence in that. I don't remember any time before this, right?
I don't remember any time after before this.
It's going to be tough going back to the real world after this.
See, the difference between us is that I've been doing work for Denver at 3 a.m. See this all time.
Yeah.
That explains.
But I do want to tell you guys, you can throw this tweet. Kel, can you find the tweet with the information here and throw it up? Tomorrow we are going to be doing a meetup, and we had to change location. This is an emergency announcement. Too many people coming. Also, we had to move it earlier. Some people are like, "Hey, that's not enough time. We want more time." 4:30 is when we're kicking things off tomorrow at. Oh my God, I can't believe I have to read something here.
Good luck.
Pivopia. Throw it up on the screen. So
sure.
Go ahead and look up. Pivopia.
That's where we're gonna be.
Let me give it every intonation. Pivopia.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the meetup. To meet up with some people that we didn't get to see the first time, and then also I know that there's going to be people that are coming from that we just met.
Yeah.
And now they're going to be like, these are our brothers. So like now they're going to meet new friends. So I'm excited about that portion of it.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited for it. At 4:30. If you're not going to get there at 4:30, don't worry. We're going to be there. We're going to be there all the time. I think we'll probably head to the arena around 7:15. I don't know. Whenever people say, hey, it's probably time to head to the arena, it'll probably be 7:15-ish. I've asked some people, how early do you have to get there? So we'll be there for quite a long time. You come talk to us, come do a meet and greet, meet each other. Like, one of the cool things, man, like, we have to leave tomorrow. Hopefully we're back soon. We'll talk about that, I guess, tomorrow probably as our tomorrow after the game. We'll do a wrap-up show. We'll kind of give our final farewell, and we'll talk about all those things. But it's the last chance to come out and talk to us. But we hope when we're gone, our spirit lives on here in Serbia, and that you guys make some connections with each other. I know when we were at the last meetup, some people, it connected some people who had never met each other before. So come out tomorrow, 4:30. Everything gets started. Have a couple drinks with us. Harrison, myself, and RG will be covering the game, so no drinks for us tomorrow night. But
absolutely not.
No drinks tomorrow for us, but we will be, attending that event for a little bit. We'll have to leave a little bit early, but the other fellas, they're going to be attending this just as mere fans, just as mere Serbians.
As mere?
Well, as honorable senators, I don't know.
I would rather, be an honorable fan if that means that I get to have, rakia and beer with you guys before we get there. They're gonna be like, I can't do that. I'm not gonna do that. Come have a beer. Come have rakia with me. Vote. Kale, RG. No, RG can't go.
D-line too?
No, I was gonna get to him. I had to get to him. I'm excited for that portion of it all.
Guys, we have a lot to get to, so enough of that was a fun intro. Let's move on. We have a lot to get to because we did so many things over the last few days. It's crazy. Honest to God, I know this. People are going to think I'm lying on this. I was joking with RG that we've been sharks since we've been here. If you stop moving, we'll die. So we haven't stopped moving. 3-4 hours sleep maximum. 4 hours of sleep. I'm feeling like, oh my God, what is this, a vacation?
Yeah.
I'm on break. We have been going nonstop, place to place to place. Meeting different people, doing different interviews. Harrison, myself, RG, last little bit have really been trying to hit the gas pedal on some of these interviews for a giant project that we've been working on, a big documentary that, what is the purpose of our trip? Why did we come out here? The big purpose that I think is coming more into focus as we kind of get some of these interviews under our belt, the real story that we want to tell is starting to come into focus. And that'll be something that sadly you're probably going to have to wait 6 weeks or so before you see.
Pressure's on RG.
Pressure's on RG. We'll be working on a really great documentary that we're excited for. We've been going so fast. Everything's been moving so fast. So we want to share little morsels of what we've taken away from those experiences, throughout this. I want to preview. I had a great conversation with some people earlier this week in the setup to Eurobasket, setup to this game tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow things get real. We're done with the friendlies. Tomorrow's the World Cup qualifier. So I want to set the stage for that. But first, guys, the big news. We went to the Red Star football game yesterday.
Oh, man.
There's little check marks along the way where you can, describe what the day was about. That one, what was Tuesday about? Red Star football game.
Yep.
Yeah. Mostly because it took up half the day.
Yeah.
It's a big event.
Dev, prior to this, what was your favorite football, or as we say in America, soccer, what was your favorite football game that you'd ever attended?
Attended?
Yeah.
So I've never, that was my first time ever going to a soccer game.
What?
Football.
Soccer.
Football.
not Serbia.
It was a soccer ball.
That's even worse.
I seen a soccer ball. It was not a football they were playing with.
All right. So you never had attended a soccer game?
Never in life. Throughout my, last couple of years of betting, I bet the over 2.5 every single time. That's my bet.
My man has never been to a football game.
Never in life.
He's bet on every single one over the last couple of years.
Literally, I've never been to a football game.
There we go.
That's still not even right.
Serbian.
It's a soccer match.
That's still
or a football match.
What's the time here? What's the time here doing?
Yeah, so honestly,
your first one, honest to God, your first one was one of the meccas of football.
It was wild, and going through whole Twitter and everything like that. Everyone is upset about me, announcing my allegiance to being a Red Star football fan.
He's gonna screw this up.
Don't say that out loud, bro.
So just to let people around the world or just people that are watching know, I am not a Red Star fan.
Oh, you just lost the few people that still loved you.
But also, I am a Red Star football. It was the first time I'd ever went to a game.
You're digging yourself a deeper and deeper hole.
All jokes aside, if I had went to a partisan game, if I had went to Rapids, if I had went to a Rapid games first, if I had went to LA Galaxy first, I would have become a fan of that team, or that's who I would have rooted for. If I went to that game last night and that was my first, who was I supposed to root for?
D-Line, how would you rate the pander here on a scale of 1 to 100?
I mean, on a scale of 1 to Dev, it's at a Dev level.
You really think so?
Actually, no. This is actually he's cutting it. You're right. That
was a horrible job here. No, but in all sincerity, so that was your first football game you've ever been to, first atmosphere. Did it meet expectations, exceed them? What were you expecting going into it, and what was it like?
I expected madness. I expected it to be crazy. I expected passion. I expected everyone there to be like fully into the game and bought in the entire time. Guess what I got? Exactly that.
All that.
We were right next to it. We was at a perfect location where we're right next to the crowd that's going crazy. They already have their chants that everybody's going out and screaming the entire time. Everybody has like the singing going along, kind of like a college atmosphere. There was a little bit of differences that I just never expected by going to the game. So we had tickets. We had tickets to sit at.
That's a good point.
And
The tickets were associated with a seat.
this was an American thing. So, like, they told us rules. There was a lot of rules. Some of them were made up. Some of them were not so made up.
People just be making up shit in Serbia.
Yeah, they just – so first off, like, one of the rules was, like, you couldn't bring coins in the game.
Yup.
That was wild to me. Like, you can't bring coins.
Yeah, you can't throw them is why.
Okay,
So, yeah.
In all fairness, when was the last time you had a coin?
Quarters?
Yeah, a quarter. Like, you walk
Are
around
you
with
just
quarters?
carrying a bag of change on you?
Well, I've never been to a soccer game. But, like,
So I just brought some.
So, no, I'm saying if you had to park or something like that, you got to put some quarters in the meter. Like, it's money that you have in your pocket. Like, you couldn't have those. So, you're just throwing them down. So, you're just throwing them everywhere. But back to, like, having an actual seat. So, like, say we're row 13, seat 26.
Yeah.
Like I had. That's not where I sat.
Right.
No.
That is not where I sat.
No.
And the reason that I didn't sit there is because there was a family already there once I got there.
They were. That was their home. They set the precedence.
So
it's crazy, man.
So you don't want to be like aggressive or anything like that. So you go and tell somebody whose job, the security guard, like, hey, there's someone sitting in my seats. Because I asked them, like, hey, this is my seat. They're like, no, what do you want to do? And I'm like, nothing. So I go tell the security guard. They're like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So I found another seat. My seat was actually like right in front of my old seats. But then I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, hold on. So I could have sat anywhere in this whole arena. I could have sat anywhere. It reminded me of my first 2 years of covering the Nuggets and just got to sit wherever I wanted to without knowing that you couldn't do that. But so I sat in row 12 then. We had excellent seats.
Yeah, we really did.
Our seats was incredible.
We really did.
Yeah. We had a super homie that
row
set us
17.
up and put us exactly where that was like the perfect spot. We're right in the middle of the field. We get to watch the
Shouts
action.
to Marko Milenkovic, by the way, man.
Marco's a
He's
true
really,
homie,
He
man.
really set us up like
What a guy.
with the perfect experience and whatnot. And it was just wild the whole time. Every single second is anticlimactic. You're like the whole time. I'm actually rooting. The team that they were playing, was it Israel? Well, who were they playing?
There's Maccabi, man.
Maccabi.
Don't do this to us, man.
So we're playing Maccabi and
Maccabi or
they
Maccabi.
put the
We're such bad football.
they
fans.
put they had the smoke and the flares and everything.
They put him in the cage. I thought that was the funniest part, man. You're getting to it. It's actually hilarious. The visiting fans, they put him in a little cage.
Yeah.
And honestly, probably for safety
That's for
reasons.
their
Definitely.
own safety.
For their own
1000%
safety. And
for
you're
safety,
sitting.
yeah.
Can you imagine, man? If there's one thing I could take from Serbia, if there's one thing, it's like, hey, if I went back to the U.S. and they were like, hey, well, whatever you say, one thing you learn from Serbia, what you have is that. Can we put Lakers fans in a cage?
Yeah, no
Can
question.
we just cage them and put them in the corner where they can light their flares and do their thing, but they're caged?
And truly, like, think about the fact that they're surrounded by, it's like 40,000 other fans in every single way around them. They have
40,000?
flares.
How many was that? Do you know?
That place was close to 50,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's accurate.
So everywhere where everyone's around them and it's just them and they're supporting like true supporters and everybody has chants, everybody's screaming, everybody's loud and going at it and they're like, no, we're gonna stick to this. They stopped the game because the smoke is all on the field. You couldn't see.
I love that
I could
part,
not
actually.
see the goalie. Like I couldn't see the goalie, so they stopped the game. Like I'm like, wow, what is going on this
Yeah,
entire
it's like,
time?
just regular pause for flare smoke. Like everybody just knew what was going on.
They didn't have and then there was people right to the. I'm on the edge of the seating. There was people. So you're standing the entire game. People were in the rows. You can't get up. You can't get down. You can't move. So for the entire duration of the match, you can't go to the bathroom. You can't do anything.
No, you can't leave
You
your
are
seat.
in the.
You
moment.
can't leave your
You are
seat.
in
That's
the
not
game.
even your seat.
You can't exactly. So like the entire time, I'm like, this is insane. This is wild. This is where you're supposed to be. I felt like we were where we were supposed to be. What an experience for my first game.
Yeah.
I'm a Red Star fan. I just thought about it.
Jeez,
Not supposed to say that.
Oh, wow.
Oh man.
Chat's about to go really poorly.
Yeah. So my takeaways were before we went. People were in my DMs. People were telling us like all of these rules. Like it sounded like if we were to not follow these rules, we would fall into great danger, great peril.
Don't look anyone in the eye, but also don't break eye contact if somebody.
Yes,
you.
And we went, and it was an incredible experience. It was an incredible environment. But afterwards, I was like, man, that was some overstated. Like it was not nearly that insane. Like as far, I mean, I was like, this feels like an insane sporting event, but it's not. I was like, man, we don't even know how to do it in America. I came back. I'm like, yes, we do. Yeah,
really?
Yes.
Wow.
That
Eric,
to me felt
unimpressed.
like no. Not unimpressed. I will say in the environment.
Very impressed. Very impressed.
The environment inside the stadium, the everybody, acting in unison, the clapping, like walking in was like, oh man, I was trying to imagine what that would be like to be an opposing fan having to think, or opposing player like having to come into the stadium like
when
in Serbia.
The players were walking out like for the beginning of the game. I would be scared for my life.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
If I was a visiting player. Scared for my life.
Yo, like the other thing, and what we learned is that the heat flares that the Maccabi fans set off, like Maccabi is getting a big penalty for that. Like,
well,
that's not standard practice. Like, you can't do that.
So that's why we didn't see it for Red Star.
The Red Star fans are on probation, pretty much.
Yeah, they're on probation. That's why they didn't do it. So you're right. There is like a thing. If you do those things, you get a penalty.
Well, the penalty is you legit can't have home fans for 4 games.
Yeah.
Can I be honest for a second? Because I'm with you. My wife one time, she went to Boca, I think Boca Juniors in Rio one time. She was studying abroad, and she went down to this game, and it was like insane. She didn't know what she was doing. She sat in Popular, which is like, the crazy section.
Yeah.
And she said she thought she was going to die. No, I'm serious about this. Like, it was one of the scariest days of her life because when it all started, everybody came from the top row to the bottom and pressed, and so she got compressed against the front or whatever, and no way of moving, and she just thought like, all right, I'm going to die. And then it got so crazy, like everybody just trying to punch and everything else, and then they ended up getting these giant fire hoses and hosing them down. So I'm with you a little bit, Eric, to where like I didn't expect that, because that to me sounds like an insanity, but I expected something on that scale, and when it wasn't that. So the part of me was like, okay, I'm with you, like some of the rules about dude. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's incredible, the energy in that building.
No question.
The energy, and this is what's funny, is the things we're talking about, like we want more flares, more fires, more like fireworks or whatever, like that stuff's a novelty, man. It's like cool. It's a total novelty where it's like, man, how crazy is that? But also like if that was the Nuggets game, I'd be like, stop throwing flares. I want to watch Jokic.
Like going to a Broncos playoff game has that same level of energy. I will say, like I have been to football games where it's the same level. I mean, I'm just giving like to go. You feel, hear the story. It's like, man, what are we going to experience? I thought there were just going to be brawls in the street. Like you had to hop over puddles of blood and things. And I was like, no, this is just a great sporting event. Like these people are all enjoying themselves in a way that feels familiar to me. This is like another thing that is like you can relate to. It's like it's another thing, like a barrier is broken down where you have this story that you think that it's going to be so different from what it is that we're used to, and it's like, no, we experience the same things. It's just a different part of the world. This is another thing that we have a kinship on, and it's like I thought it was fantastic that way. Like I felt like I was part of it. I didn't feel like I was in danger going there.
Yeah, but everybody will be shocked if if the fans here came to a Nuggets game or something like that, especially if you go against like the Lakers and stuff. And back home, if you go to the game, there's going to be fans of other teams. There's going to be a lot of fans of the other team, and they're out there.
Mostly, though, Dev, to be fair, just because I think there's a misconception here. Lakers, Bulls, Celtics, Knicks.
Big teams.
That's but it's specific teams. Like,
you know who it is.
It's Brendan.
Keep going.
That's somebody at the door.
Wow, that's about to get really loud in here.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. Votes coming
Is Red Bar closed? Yeah, it's 12:15. Red Bar just closed.
But I want to say one thing, though, because you're right that the energy at an NFL game for a playoff game is, I think, equal or at least close, comparable to enough that you say, like, the energy's there. But you know what's not there, like, to that level? The unity. The unity. And that's the part, to me, that's so cool and so impressive. And I think it's important that it's different. it's meaningful that that's a difference because that's one of the things. Like, there's some themes, guys, some real themes that have emerged this trip for me. Like, we've been having fun. We've been doing some different things. Harrison and I in particular have been off doing some interviews and trying to get some different things. We're each getting a little bit different out of this trip. I've been on the show a little bit less over the last 48 hours talking about this. There's some real themes that have come together, and this theme of sports being one area where the nation of Serbia, the culture of Serbia and everything else feels the most unified, feels the most connected. That's one of the themes. And not just that, but the way in which the sports and the way in that they approach sports and basketball in particular feels like an expression of their culture in this really interesting way. That's what I take away. So when you say the energy is the same, I agree. But in the States, it's not all orange. There's a lot of orange. There's a lot of orange. This one was... Everybody in each section had no color to wear. They weren't given shirts.
Oh, yeah.
At Ball Arena, you hand out shirts. You don't even have to wear the right shirt. They'll give one to you. Still don't put it on. This one here, everybody knows the rules, and they show up. They dance together. They jump together. They sing together. They shout together. And you're just like, man, the energy's great, but it's also unified.
Because, like, when you talk about that you are a fan of a football team, you're saying, I'm a fan of the Broncos. I'm not. It's not saying, I am Denver.
Oh, I loved it.
You know what I mean? Oh, come on, man. But for real, it's true. It's like this,
you're right.
This is identity stuff. Like this,
so true,
and this is so much of what it is that we're learning here, and just in general that we knew, but we're seeing it play out in front of our faces. It's just like the actions that you take are part of a larger organism all the time. This is the idea that you have something that you're a part of versus the individual, element that is the United States, where you have everybody is their own thing. Everybody is their own individual, which is very positive in some ways and also sort of takes away from just a feeling of connectedness. And this is all what it is to be, I've always said this, like the concept of nationalism means something very different in this part of the world because people who are national or have national connection also have connection on a a genetic connection. Yeah. Like you can tell me what a Serbian person looks like, but you can't tell me what an American person looks like. You can look at this set right now, what does an American person look like? So there is a connection and there is an identity that people carry with them that we just see expressed. And so
language and
yes,
food and all these things that is it for sure, man. Absolutely. But more to the point, man, the connection of the fan base. And I'll tell you another surprise I personally had being at this arena. I was surprised there was as many kids as there were. Not that there were a ton of them, but I just kind of, for some reason, thought no kids.
Right.
Because you can't bring them.
You don't take kids to a place you can't look people in the eye.
Correct. Exactly. That's kind of what I expected. But that didn't matter because it was still. And then, another thing, and this is another theme of the entire trip, man, like, if I do push back, because I know some people maybe are like, well, no, you guys are making it sound like we're too weak or something. No, like there was maybe walking into the arena, there was a couple like partiers there was a little bit of walking through where I was like, man, these guys are drunk and like looking for trouble, keep it moving. So like that stuff wasn't too far away to get, but
not weak, nothing weak about it.
Nothing weak about it or anything like that. But once you got to the arena, man, like I'm sitting next to a guy, I can't even talk to him. Because obviously I don't speak Serbian. He didn't really speak English. I hugged that dude 20 times. Man. Like every close thing. I don't know this guy. But every single time, man, it was like me and him were the best friends. You know, like, and then when the game ended, like, we're both like ready to cry in each other's arms. And honest to God, I will say this one thing because I'm with you, man. Like, we did some stuff in the next section. We went to Red Star Arena and this or that. So I know some of the people. Like, listen, honest to God, I'm saying this in all sincerity. I don't have a side here. Like I don't. But being at the game, I still felt the pain of that. Like still the way it happened.
Yeah, well, we haven't even talked about the game though.
All right, let me hear the actual game. The game.
This I feel like is a loss that Red Star fans are going to be talking about for generations.
We asked about this. I don't think that's true.
It might just.
I don't know how, because this was like a ridiculous loss.
Recap it because most of our audience will not have seen or heard about the game.
They were down 1 goal from the first leg, and it's like 2 legs, and the team who has the better aggregate score moves on. They needed to win by 1 goal to go to overtime, 2 goals to move on, and Red Star was up 2-0.
Yep.
In the 45th minute of the first half.
Yep.
Last minute.
You thought the game was over.
Well, I thought they dominated. I just looked like
they did dominate the first half. a sequence then happened where the Red Star goalie saved a PK.
Yes.
After video review, VAR gave them a handball in the box.
Hold on. 5 minutes into stoppage time. It's 45 minutes plus 5. Stoppage time.
I don't know how many minutes into stoppage time was for the first half. That was the second half.
Nope.
Yeah, it happened in both.
Well,
it was both.
The reason I bring this up, Harrison, is because stoppage time, like that, felt to me like the most it could possibly go, right? And you have a penalty kick, and you're thinking, as long as you get the stop and clear it, halftime, they're going to blow the whistle.
They got the stop. They didn't clear it, and somehow they let up a goal in the 45th minute plus change of the first half. So it's 2-1 going into the second half, and Red Star just had nothing the entire second half.
Yeah.
They gave up a goal late, and then they gave up another one.
Losers lounge.
In the 95th minute.
Yeah,
they gave up. They didn't just give up a goal. They
an own goal.
It was an own goal they gave up basically a goal was scored at 45 and 90.
It was the most ridiculous
It'd be like two half-court
thing, man.
2 half-court buzzer beaters. One at the first half, one at the second half, and that's how you lose. Like, it was just covered.
My heart.
And it really was like it was one of those things where you kind of like sat there like this whole trip has been perfect. That was one moment where I was kind of like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, did somebody we need to hit the reset button on this trip. Like, what's the deal? It was really, really ominous. But you know what? And the same thing, like sports, this is what it is, man. They give us the ultimate highs. They give us the ultimate lows. And let's be perfectly honest out here. We've experienced a lot of highs out here.
Yeah.
An overwhelming amount of highs. And we know that. We know that our trip has been, like, everybody's been so gracious to us. The experiences have been something that maybe not everybody gets to experience. And everybody has sort of opened up their arms to us in ways that we're just so grateful for. But it almost wouldn't be a real trip, an honest trip, if we didn't experience some of the lows as well. And that's And so part of me, like, walking out of that arena, like, in a lot of ways, I was like, man, now I'm suffering here with these people.
We suffer together,
man.
We suffer together.
It's like a little bit of my blood spilled out there as well.
This is the other thing where walking in, I had the same sense that you didn't. But the reason that I've walked away with the feeling that I did, that it was not the intense, crazy environment that I was expecting, was because after absolute heartbreak, like to lose in such a fashion that you could not script.
It was so
Nug
life.
It was so Nug life. But the Serbians,
it really was.
The Serbians we were walking with, like, you would think that people would be fighting, would be angry, but they were just like, it's football. And they, they walked out like, and to say like,
I'll be honest, man, there was I think people were really hurt too. Like,
they were, but
I'll be honest, our gracious host for like, we didn't talk for a good 10 minutes. It was like 10 minutes.
Of course. It
was kind of like a.
But I mean,
that was.
But we could relate as Nuggets fans
totally
specifically. We could relate. This is like another thing that we could just absolutely relate on. Like, I don't know. Like, of course we wanted them to win, and the funny thing is that they didn't lose that game. They tied the game, but because of the fact that the first leg required that they had 2 goals, it's just such a strange way that the sporting events work. But it was, I was asking them, I was like, listen, after time had passed and we were sort of like walking silently, we were asking our gracious host, I was like, what did we just witness? Is this going to be talked about for generations? Like, what? And they were like,
it should be.
They're just like it's just like another. It just this happens.
We got it next year.
Not like that though.
All right, can we hit a break? Core memory. I mean, it was fantastic.
Incredible.
Honestly, another memory that I'm just like, this is incredible. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. The high and the low.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Absolute 10 out of 10.
It was such a human experience, all wrapped up in one. It was something else. All right, let's hit a break. On the other side, though, we're going to have to speed through somehow all of these crazy things that happened in between then and now, which was only one day somehow, but it felt like it was an entire year, including conversations with Misko Raznatovic, Milan Dosic, and a host of other people I'm excited to kind of introduce and tell you about.
College football is back. It's time to enjoy the tradition, the fun, and the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook to celebrate the best time of the year. New customers can bet $5 on any team and get $200 in free bets instantly, win or lose. You can also place a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. Just combine multiple bets into one, like which team will get the win, which team will score first, and more. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code DNVR. Bet just $5 on any college football game. Get $200 in free bets instantly. That's code DNVR only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. One per new customer. Minimum $5 deposit. And wager $200 issued as 8 $25 free bets. Restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Also, guys, Green Mountain Dental Group. We go to Green Mountain Dental Group at DNVR. A lot of us here on the show go. A lot of us at the company go.
Do you think they can do like meat cleaning? Is that possible?
Just clean out the meat from just your gums?
Yeah, do they have a meat-specific treatment that we can get?
No, they don't. They don't. I'm sorry. It's called floss.
Oh.
Yeah,
Have you heard of floss?
Yeah,
no.
Apparently not.
Well, go to Green Mountain Dental Group, pick up some floss. Also, when you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, they're going to hook you up. They're located 15 minutes from downtown Denver. Tell the team at Green Mountain Dental Group that DNVR Sports sent you. You're going to get a $300 discount for a full orthodontics treatment for new patients. If you mention DNVR Sports, you get a free set of bleach trays, a $350 value with a new patient cleaning, exam, and x-rays. So that new patient cleaning, exam, and x-rays, you get a lot of stuff, a $350 value, and that free set of bleach trays. So to make a new appointment, check out their website, greenmountaindentalgroup.com today.
All right, back here, segment 2, an action-packed segment 2 as we move on from the Red Star game. And now we talk about...
into our mics,
Kel,
even.
Remember, we're talking to our mics now. You can always just yell at me, Kel. I give you permission. Now we go on to some of these great interviews that we've had over the last couple days. And I'm actually going to start with the one we did this morning, which was with super agent Misko Raznatovic, most powerful agent in all of Europe.
Some would say.
I think anybody that knows what they're talking about would say.
He is.
Misko Raznatovic, who also owns Mega, which is where Jokic comes from. It's a very interesting program. I want to tell you, so Harrison, you might notice I deleted your notes. Because the notes you put in there.
All right. It was good, guys.
No, stay here. No, Harrison, you need to stay here. I deleted because you guys don't know that we're scrambling around so much right now that like we don't even have time to like reconvene for these things. It's almost just like kind of hit live or whatever. But the reason is because the notes that you were going to highlight in the show are the ones that are going to be in the documentary. It's like the things that
that's in like a month. 2 months from now.
Don't matter.
Okay.
I say all that to say that those are the things I kind of want to hold close to the chest.
Okay.
Because those will be part of a larger project that tie into a larger narrative. But there were still plenty of things. So just to kind of set the stage for anybody that doesn't know, Misko is Jokic's agent. He's the man that discovered Jokic. He's not just the Jokic's agent. He's the one who literally plucked him from obscurity after seeing his box score numbers in a paper 2 weeks in a row and then signing him a sight unseen. And I want to start here. The first thing, because I want to talk more about Jokic, which the Jokic aspects of this are going to be a little bit less. Just some cool tidbits. One, Misko says he never does this. He's an extreme, and I gathered this from him. First of all, I should just say, taking the measure of, like, I've wanted to meet Misko for a very long time. I've known about him from, I don't know, first heard about Jokic 7-8 years ago.
He's got a great Instagram. Misko does. You should check it out if you haven't. If you don't follow him.
Gave us
great
a shout out.
Instagram, always getting updated daily.
It was just really great to meet him, and honestly, he met all expectations just in terms of, like, he's an impressive.
He was great.
He's an impressive individual.
Love the guy.
He's a guy that honestly. He's done a lot, and even and kind of coming to his office and getting to sit with him and getting to meet with him, I walked away very impressed. I did not know this tidbit. He was a player. He had a long career. I think a 21-year career. He retired at age 38. He was a player and an agent at the exact same time, and he was the agent of one of his teammates. Pekovic, Big Peck. You guys remember Big Peck?
That was on the team?
That was on the team at the same time. Like, we remember Bill Russell. We hear these stories about how Bill Russell was a player coach, right?
Player coach. Think of the past.
Player agent. How insane is that?
Honestly, that is like a crazy like experience that literally no one.
That's something you could only pull off in Eastern Europe in like the 1980s.
You could only pull that off. You could pull that off in a Will Ferrell movie. That's the only time that you could do that.
No, but I'm telling you, representing yourself in court.
Bill Russell coached Kenny the Jet, so it's not that large. I mean, it's not that. We're talking 20 years difference here, but like it's still like it's not that out of pocket, but it is out of pocket from today's standards. Just to think of somebody being an agent, like you go to practice and you're done, and you're like, all right, step into my office. Like, you have a bad practice, you could almost tell a guy like, hey, that's taking some money back.
You're like, oh, bro, we got to make some cash. I'm passing you the ball.
One of the questions I've been asking everybody that I talk to out here, and then tomorrow, by the way, we're going to be doing a lot more of this. Actually, if you guys are not on Twitter, you should try to stick to Twitter. We're going to be out and about tomorrow trying to interview people. This is before we get to the meetup. If you happen to be around town, we'll put out the neighborhood we're going to be in tomorrow, just trying to interview different people on the street, because we've interviewed a lot of high-profile people this week, kind of behind the scenes. And now we want to interview some regular people about some of the stuff we've done. But one of the things I've been asking people is, who is your idol? Who's your idol? Easy answer for Misko. Easy answer. Drazen Petrovic. For him, that was, and when I say idol, I shouldn't say idol, because he's really a peer. They're like the same age. But when I say like the guy that, player. That he just sort of said like, man, that guy has it. That's the guy, and it was Drazen. And I just thought that was so cool. We talked about Djordjevic and Danilovic and some of these other, Vlade and Peja and some of these other guys, and he's like, no, man, Drazen to me was the guy. And he speculated, although it wasn't true when I've asked all these other people, but he speculated most of the people in my generation, if you ask them, they'll tell you the same thing. Like that was their guy. And I just thought that was such a really, really cool answer. I wanted to get into him talking about Jokic and some of the discovery of him and some of these different things. I know the answer that stood out to you. I'll let you kind of tell it, but Jokic with Mega's a team full of young players. I don't want to give away too much, but it's a team full of young players that also competes. Again, I don't want to give away too much because he gave some great answers on what he perceives his project of Mega to be and what he kind of envisioned, what it's evolved into, and what's turned into. But you have this team in Mega that's featuring Jokic, featuring Micic, and they're a young team full of a bunch of young players, and they go all the way up into the final against Red Star, and everybody expects that game is going to be a 20-point loss when they get to the final. Like, okay, now you're playing the big leagues, David versus Goliath or whatever. Great games from Jokic. Great game from Micic. These guys put them on the ropes. Down, I think, 2 points or one or 2 points in the final seconds, and Jokic misses the shot. Jokic, who had a great game, by the way, and surpassed all expectations, he misses the shot.
Just real fast, do you think that is a defining moment for just Jokic, like altogether?
So here's what's interesting about it. This is like, to give it for our American audience, obviously, which again is 98% of our audience, but for our American audience, it would be like a Cinderella team. It would be like, say, an 8 seed going to the final and then losing at the buzzer. Would you be like, oh, they choked? Like, probably not. You'd be like, my God, this team overachieved so much. And they came up just a little short from the most biggest miracle run. And I think that's what it was. And even talking to Misko, like, he was almost taken aback when I was like, I asked him, I said something like, what was Jokic like after that game? Was he distraught or something? And he's like, I don't remember. They went to the final and all the way to the final and lost at the buzzer. He's like, they were supposed to lose by 20 or 30 points. But I thought it was cool. You want to give the anecdote that you thought stood out about that specific moment?
Do you want me to?
I would like you to.
It was in the notes, though.
Well, that note, if you look, is still there.
Oh, okay.
Look.
But Misko said that Jokic, on that last shot that he took, there was a pass he could have made. There was a pass he could have made to a point guard. It was still seemed like a good shot that he took, but there was definitely an open pass he could have made. And Misko said that today, Jokic would definitely make that pass.
Yeah.
So in the back of my head, I'm wondering, if not making that pass, really like made a imprint on him.
Yeah, so you do think that is like a defining moment
I don't know.
for him
Maybe. I just had a thought about it. Maybe. I don't know.
Isn't that fun? I mean, like we always talk, we dance a little bit around LeBron and Jokic. Like LeBron early on passed off in those big moments, and then he learned that then he has to take the big shot. Jokic maybe finds the opposite. Interesting.
That's not my interpretation of the moment and of his takeaway. And it's open to interpretation. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that it wasn't necessarily clear, what it was. Maybe in the documentary we'll see the exact words and you can kind of make for yourself. But I kind of thought it was more as in like he just didn't. Whether it was he didn't see the read, whether it was because in that moment he got sped up, or the pressure or whatever it was. I think it was more of one of those ones where what he was saying was he's now ready for that moment. Mm-hmm. Not that he would make a different decision like, oh, you always pass there, you always this, but that he just wasn't ready for it. And at that moment, the right play was to pass, and he maybe wasn't ready for it for whatever reason. So again, open to interpretation, I think, what that might mean. But yeah, there was that. I did think it was interesting talking to him about, there's the famous game. If you don't know the story, I'll give you the quick overview. Jokic was getting ready to sign a deal for Barcelona. And if at the time, when you go to Mega, the next step would be to go to Barcelona. He was drafted by the Nuggets, I think, already. And then you would go to Barcelona maybe for a year, maybe 2 years, a little seasoning. It's like a stash. You spend a year at the top club, and then you go over to the NBA. That was his expectation, including Misko's, but that was everybody's expectation. And Barcelona comes into town, and they're ready to sign him to a deal, and they want to watch him play this game. And it's against I'm gonna screw this up. I apologize, everyone. Sremska Mitrovia. That's who they're playing against. He shows up for this game. Jokic has, as Misko put it, not just a bad game, like an unimaginably bad game. He looks disinterested. It's terrible. It's like it wasn't just that he was bad. And he said, by the way, we went out to lunch. We had the contract all written out, all prepared. We shook hands. The deal was done. This was not we'll sit down at the table after all of this. This was, the deal is done. Let's go celebrate and watch him play. And he plays so bad. And Misko says, I never do this. But on this time, I'm feeling generous. And I say, you know what, guys? He said I could look in their face and they're white as a ghost. And he says, I'll give you guys, go take a night. I could see you're nervous. Let's watch another game. Don't worry about it. Go take a rest or whatever, and then we'll sign this contract in a few days when you guys feel better about things because we know this guy. That's how confident we are or whatever. And in that window of opportunity, of course, Arturas comes in and says, this is, hey, we want to bring him over to Denver. Forget this going to Barcelona. We think he's ready. And, of course, and again, I don't want to spoil too much of the documentary. Most of this is going to be about less about Jokic, the documentary, more about the Serbian basketball part. That's why this part I'm kind of comfortable sharing. And Wendell probably have more of these in his travel log notes coming up. But he tells him Arturas' selling point was, do you think Jokic is ready skill-wise to be in the NBA? He says, yes. He says, what's the holdup? It's his body. And he says, do you think he's going to improve that more going to Barcelona or coming to Denver? And Misko says, well, coming to Denver, of course. That's where the best training facilities is. This guy's ready for talent-wise. He just needs to work on his body. Send him to us. We're going to start that process now, and we'll get him ready, and the rest is history. And I just thought that was such a cool story.
You guys got me ready for this documentary. I'm so ready. I just that part right there, I'm like, whoa. That is a crazy story that no one has ever heard. Nobody's ever. Story. And you're talking to the direct person that has got to experience.
Nobody knows better.
That he actually got to see what that's like, and also shout out to Arturas on that type of just taking that's a chance, that's a big time chance, and really he rewrote history in that moment. Barcelona could have strong armed, or they could have still took a chance on him, and maybe he makes that chance, but for him to still step in and say, hey, we know what we have here and we know what he can be. That's a shout out. I'm excited to just see that and to see y'all keep on going. I'm ready for your notes. Also, Harrison.
I know you are, man.
The unveiling.
A lot of what we talked to. I mean, look, we got a lot of stuff on Jokic, and some of that we haven't shared yet will be in the documentary. But a lot of what we got is just asking about basketball in Serbia, about Mega, which is a very unique project, and getting his perspective on it. His perspective as an agent. I mean, think about this guy, Misko. He's like a Larry Bird figure, in my opinion. One of the cool things about Larry Bird was he was a player, then he was an GM, and then he was a coach. Or actually, I got that in reverse order: coach and then a GM. So I'm always, and it spans generations, and I'm always interested in those people. And Misko is one of those guys. He wasn't a star player by any means, but he did have a 20-year career. Then he was been an agent for 20 years, so 25 years. So he's a guy that's been in Serbian basketball for 45 years, and I just like people that have that kind of decades-long perspective. We also talked to Milan Dosic today, who I just thought was great, who played for Red Star, among other teams. But he played for Red Star and is now working in a front office capacity for Red Star. And fantastic. You know who actually, I didn't tell you this. You know who he kind of reminded me of? Who did he remind you of? Presence, looks, everything.
Man, I don't know. Who?
Arturas Karnisovas.
Oh.
Both tall, skinny. They kind of have like the exact same build. They're tall, they're skinny, they're this or that. Are you bored of this story?
Yes. No, I'm in the chat.
Oh, you're hanging out in the chat. Yeah. And we talked to him, and he was absolutely great. I mean, same thing. Like, we're asking him questions about Jokic. We're asking him, what stood out to you about that interview, Harrison?
I mean, he's just got so much knowledge on Serbian basketball. Here's a guy who played and, is now in a very high position with one of the teams here in Belgrade, and he just has a great sense for the history of basketball in this country, how far it's come, where it's going. I think it's really interesting to hear people really high up in the basketball world, just their thoughts on the future of Serbian basketball, if it's trending up, if this is like a golden generation, if it's stagnating a little bit. People have different views. That's been interesting to hear. But, he's just got a great perspective on Jokic and his rise, because obviously he played against him, which is kind of crazy. And now he's like running a team in Belgrade, and he just is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this region and the basketball here.
We hear recurring stories the more we talk to people. You hear so few differences and you get different sort of offshoots, but you do hear some core similarities, what people are talking about. And one of the things, it's funny, at the end of the season, I've talked about this a lot. Jokic, it was the first time I've ever heard him declare that he thinks the Nuggets will win a title. Remember, Vic Lombardi asked him, when you close your eyes, can you do it? And he says, I don't need to close my eyes.
The greatest quote ever.
It is the greatest quote. And he said it in such a Jokic way. Like, it wasn't a looking at the cameras. It was just casual, confident.
See, that's the thing about sports in general. Like, when you get into the long-form narrative of any sort of sporting anything that you can assign, like, a lot about sports is like pretty arbitrary.
Sure.
Can you make one thing do a thing and the other person's trying to stop the thing, whatever that happens to be, basketball, football. But narratives come into play, storylines come into play, people's lives get turned into it, whole decisions start to come out, and you don't really understand like what the larger narrative is. And I came to realize this also, people have been asking us about the Nuggets, and I'm starting to tell people here the long narrative about, like, what did it mean when Carmelo Anthony left? Were they upset? What did it mean? Like, all the same story, like these long formed, like, this happened and why this was important because this happened, and what that meant was that this person made this decision. It just starts to unfold in front of you, and you start to just understand like the impact that all of these things that we pay attention to, like what they really mean to people, and how easily they can conjure these memories, these visions, and like they can tell you what it means to them and what it meant to the region and what it meant to the fortunes of the country, what it meant to the prosperity of a nation. And again, like if you take a step back, it's why it's so obnoxious when people who don't like sports try to belittle them, call them sports ball. Like, what do my millionaire's better than your millionaire, things like that. And you're like, yes, like the act itself largely arbitrary, a little bit silly if you try to explain it to an alien that just got here on Earth.
Right.
What's not arbitrary and what's not something that you can write off is that there is just a connection that is made, that human beings are able to ascribe so much meaning to these competitions. They sort of allow us to not only like rank, but sort of understand, how it is that we're all connected. And so I can't wait, just hearing, like you're saying, people are telling you certain memories that they have, certain thoughts they have, and it's just, we're starting to understand the larger narrative. Why you just feel like why this is so important. Why it's just like, and it's not like, okay, it's cool, we like it, it's fun.
Right.
It is that, but it just is so much deeper. It is what it is to be a human being. And so I'm super excited. I was talking again. Second shout out here because we've actually spent a lot of time with him, but Marko Milenkovic about it earlier today, and we were I said that I think the way about
connecting with other people in ways where you feel like you can like express the human experience, art is the number one, in my opinion. Like, this is the way. Sports are number two, and they're right there, and at their absolute best, they touch each other because sports bleeds into art in that way, and I think that's kind of what you're getting here.
To me, it's sports. Sports are the number one. Absolutely, sports can appeal to every person on there's something about art that some people feel that they are not able to achieve the proper amount of perspective to appreciate. Yeah. There's not a single person on earth that can't understand what they feel in their heart when a goal is scored, when there's something emotional to all of it.
That's true. I wasn't a Red Star fan, but you score that goal and all of a sudden I'm going crazy.
I'm telling you, there's something
a volcano of emotions.
There's something so deeply primal about sports. It appeals to a part of your brain that you don't have access to, but it controls us more deeply than any other part. Right. So that's why to me sports are so important.
Either way, getting back to kind of Milan here, when Jokic says, can you win a championship? He says, yes, if we play together. Well, first, this is a different quote, but he's like, yes, if we play together. Like, the talent, we have enough talent. I know we have enough talent. Just the question, will we play together? This was the number one thing Milan had. In every question we asked, he's like, you guys have to understand something. We don't look at sports. We don't look at basketball as like, am I good? Do we have enough talent?
Are we good?
No, it's just like, can we become the thing best while everyone else is trying to become that thing best? And it's just like, and that's what I think Jokic is getting at. It's like, they have talent over here. I have talent over here. It doesn't matter. The quest is, can we kind of come together in a way that we become five connected individuals. What are we?
We're having a very deep philosophical conversation. All people are talking about in the chat is that it looks like I'm pantless.
That you're what? Pantless? Oh man, this is why I don't read the chat during the show, man. Wow.
It really, even when I was in the middle of my soliloquy.
Imagine if you were.
Then I would be vote.
One great anecdote, Harrison, that I absolutely love, and it's a Jokic anecdote. One of his best friends is named Ratko Varda. He played in the NBA. He played in the NBA with Michael Jordan, actually, with the Washington Wizards. Didn't have a very long career, and I think had some injuries.
This is Jokic's closest friend, or
no? Milan Dosic's closest friend. Milan's he's a little bit older than he's a little bit older, but not that much older, but a little bit older. And he says that his buddy gets assigned by Misko. By the way, he's like 38 years old. He gets assigned to Mega when Jokic goes down there, and Mega's like all 19 to 22-year-olds. Everybody on the roster, except for one guy who's like 38 years old, and he's down there. It's Ratko Varda, 7-footer, big guy. And he calls Milan one time, and he's like, yeah, there's this guy down here. And I don't know, and this is his quote, right? I don't know whether to kill him or kiss him. I don't know if I want to kill him or if I want to kiss him.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, this guy is just killing me.
He's a beast.
He's a beast. And he's like, well, what is it? He's like, he's so skilled. He's like, okay, well, why don't you just kind of out-physical him? And he's like, well, then he goes around me and scores. And he's like, all right, well, then just kind of give him some space. He goes, then he just trains the jumper. And he's like, is he strong? No, not at all. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, I just can't stop this guy. He doesn't. I don't know how.
So like that is the actual quote from so many NBA players for Jokic's first few years.
Nothing's changed, Dev. Nothing's changed.
But now I think that they're understanding. Like, he's just different. Like, really, I think this last year like really put it to him. They're just like, hey, he's good. He's different. But those first years, especially like after he made the transformation from being like the skinny guy to being like the big guy, they looked at him and they're like, there's no way that this guy is destroying us every single night. He looks out of shape. Yep. He's not jumping off the ground. He's not just shooting. And, we're going to take away the 3 ball. He's not going to blow by us. And then he blows by or he doesn't blow by and he still scores. I think that same thing that was happening, when he went over and played as a young boy is something that translated to him playing in the biggest league, in the world. So, like, that's a quote that so many people can relate to. Like, Jokic has actually been doing that probably more and longer than anyone else in NBA history. Like, that's just the saying. Yeah. How is he doing it? He's not fast. He's not strong. He's not athletic. How is he destroying us every single time? So, like, that's a great quote.
I love that, and it was one of those things where, and actually in Milan, I asked him, he goes, that's your first time you hear about Jokic? He says, yes. And I go, well, where's the first time you saw him play? He goes, right away. I hear the story. I have to watch. He's like, so I tune on and I start watching him play because I'm like, who is this guy that somehow you can't stop him, but he looks silly. So obviously just an enormous amount of love and respect for Jokic. And I'll tell you what, this is one thing that I gather from talking to all of these people. And we've been lucky enough to be, talking to some of these guys who are in different ways. They've actually played and they're actually connected. A deep love and appreciation, I would say, for all the people connected to the fabric. And the last guy I have to shout out here is Strahinja Vasiljevic, who is I can't remember the exact title, but he works for the Federation of Basketball, in Serbia, and really, really interesting guy to talk to. He educated us a lot on the history of coaches throughout Serbia, and had some great stories to tell and some great anecdotes to share about that. This will almost exclusively be in the documentary. But one of the things that I gather was, these guys compete against each other in different ways, but like they all kind of feel each other. There really is a really sense I got of like Jokic's success, Bogdanovic feels that, and they all kind of feel it of like, hey, we're going to compete against each other in various ways, but like we're all trying to rise as a team, obviously. But even as like we take pride in Serbia being good, we take pride in the fact that as a nation we're developing good things. And if you start to drop the ball on that, you feel like, okay, even though I'm doing great, I feel a little bit of sense of loss here. And it's one of the big themes that I've kind of got along from this journey that I thought has been really, really loud and really, really interesting. And I feel like I understand it more than ever.
Yeah. This country is all about team. It's just all about the collective group.
Yeah.
Like we saw that at the Red Star game. We've heard that from everybody. It's just about the team. Like the U.S. is so much about the individual player, and here it's just about the team and the coach and winning.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have thoughts on why that is too. I mean, it's just like this country has had to circle their wagons.
Totally.
Like they were a team with a larger collective that then splintered, and these areas had to be their own teams. They had to like really come together, and it meant something.
Yeah.
Like we learned that Serbia was the one nation that never seceded. Like they were the one team that never seceded from Yugoslavia.
I want to put that pin on that because it's our next topic here. Okay. And I have to give a big shout to my guy, Milos Jovanovic, who came over and just completely captivated me and you and all of us for an hour, just holding court, kind of sharing some stories. And I want to tease again. The real story is going to be in the documentary and some of these other things that we're doing, but I want to tease a little bit of that conversation as we go into a break and we preview the Greece-Serbia game that happens tomorrow.
Make sure to pick up some Breckenridge Brewery.
Official beer.
That was good.
It is the official beer of DNVR. If you don't know where to pick it up, check out the Breck Brew Beer Locator on the Breckenridge Brewery website. That can tell you where to get Breck Brew no matter where you are. Pick it up at your local liquor store, your local grocery store, and now that it's Broncos season, make sure to pick up some Breckenridge Brewery Broncos Country Beer. It's got that Broncos logo on it. You can't miss it. If you're local, stop into one of our DNVR Broncos tailgates. All the Breck Brew you could want.
Oh my God!
All the Broncos country beer you could want.
And just to be clear, like our tailgates are going to the next level this year. We are.
They're crazy.
They started off. They were great last year. They are now. We have DJs involved. Now we have more tech involved. Now we have more games involved. Now we have more better food involved. And the Breck Brew flows like the Danube. Does it not?
It does, or the Sava. Evoca TV. Evoca TV. The new GOAT in Colorado sports that is the greatest of all TV. Evoca TV delivers amped up sports coverage for Colorado fans. They've got Altitude Sports, AT&T Sportsnet, the NFL Network, tons of other national channels and entertainment channels as well. So you got to go to evoca.tv/Colorado10. Evoca.tv/Colorado10. That way you get $10 off per month your subscription to Evoca TV for those first 3 months. After that, it's just $25 a month plus a $5 receiver fee. But make sure to go to evoca.tv/Colorado10, evoca.tv/Colorado10.
All right, we're back. And by the way, that Avaca, I know, that's where our documentary is going to premiere. We're going to have a lot of other exclusive content, not just Nuggets, but some other things going off on there. Or at least, and again, these things will be premiering on Avaca. And I have to say, Avaca has sponsored this trip. They made this thing possible. I didn't know if it was going to. As recently as 3 weeks ago, I thought, the dream is dying. We're going to die. We're not going to be able to do it. And Avaca came through. And so shouts to them. And all the more reason, if you're on the fence about whether or not to sign up. You're going to want to do it. So some people asking if I live in Australia, I live in Serbia, I'm not going to be able to see it. Look, I totally understand this. It will be available at some point shortly after that. We're not sure if it's going to be. I think it'll be 4 weeks after, but we might try to do something here. I have to give a little note here. Can I give a little note?
Please.
For years, December 15th, we've been calling it Yokmas. Yokmas. Christmas, but with yoke in front. Very clever name. We forget that in Serbia, there's a tradition of Slava. Do you remember?
How could we have forgotten?
How could we have forgotten? How could we have forgotten such a holiday? Of course.
Of course.
And Dev, we were talking about Slava. You want to explain it to the people?
Slava?
Yeah. Not the Splavs.
Oh. This is like the teacher calling on the student. They're like, why don't you go ahead and read your homework?
Yeah, there's a lot going on around me. Was Slava the museum that I went to today? so listen, Slava.
Nope.
It wasn't?
Slava Medvedenko.
No. I'll go quickly.
First off, didn't go to a museum. And he's thinking of church.
That was a church.
You don't have to lie.
That
was a museum today.
That was a church museum. It was not an actual church.
Church/museum.
Wasn't it?
Bro,
I wasn't with you. I don't know.
Hold on.
Eric, before they destroyed me, was it called Sava?
It was the Temple of Saint Slava.
That's
what I was saying. And also, was there other people of the church there?
Dev, I gotta time you out because we gotta move on. This next section is too important. I gotta move you on.
Sorry.
Slava in Serbia, every family has their own patron saint. And they celebrate that saint.
Being told there is no L.
Of course there's not.
See?
Of course there's not.
I got set up. It was a setup.
Yeah. No, I felt the white hot light on me too. And I just had to.
He's like, is that the coffee that we sell? No, that's
Strava.
That's Strava.
This is not right. Just get to the point. Hurry up.
You guys, I'm laughing so hard, my side literally aches from laughing.
That's the rakia.
No, that's kidney damage. That's kidney damage.
That is kidney damage, actually.
That's all the meat we've been eating.
Slava is every family in Serbia has a saint, and they celebrate on that holiday. So like everybody, it's passed down from generation to generation. You have one, and it's like, hey, my Slava is this week or whatever. We decided, you know what? DNVR, we're a family here.
Sure.
We're a family. People watching this are a family. You know, we're a family. Yokmas is now Slava.
Dev and I aren't related, clearly.
December 15th, no longer Yokmas. We've henceforth declare it Slava. DNVR Nuggets are Nugget Slava.
It's our Slava.
That's our
or
Slava.
Some would say our Sava.
some might say our Sava, and some might say our Strava. All right, I want to get serious here for a second as we get ready to preview Greece versus Serbia, a game I'm very excited for. Very, very excited for.
Jokic Giannis.
Oh,
in Belgrade.
Playtime's over, fellas. Playtime's over. It's time to get to work. Brendan, you just had to be on the show, didn't you?
Rocky hour.
So, this game means something different to me now than it did a week ago. And I mean that sincerely, because I feel like I understand it a lot more from the perspective of a Serbian fan. I'm not going to say that I understand it fully, but I understand it in a lot different of a way. And I want to kind of walk us back a little bit. This is a World Cup qualifying arena. And I think that there's something, and now this is going to be a mixture of me talking from personal perspective, and my perspective, I'm open to it being wrong. I've been here 1 week, guys. I don't know Serbia that well. I'm trying to. I find it interesting and somewhat fitting that it's at Stark Arena. That this game is here. Stark Arena, if you don't know, was going to be built to host the 1994 World Cup. Okay, it was a big project. You know, a team will earn like, oh, you're going to be the host nation. All right, you build a big stadium here. So what happened was sanctions arrived in Serbia in 1991. Very hard times. I don't want to get into all the history and all the politics. I just want just as a point of reference here that hard times. And again, I had a great conversation with Milos Jovanovic. I want to if you guys will forgive me, I know my American audience is going to want a sort of a teaser for this, but I might miss a detail here or there, and I hope you guys can kind of extend me a little bit of a leash here. More research, obviously, ahead to make sure I nail dot every I and everything. But, sanctions arrive in 91, very hard times, and we get the breakup of Yugoslavia. So you're building this, and wild inflation, like everybody's life's changed, during that time here. It was set to be completed, in time for that. It wasn't completed until 2004. This arena that we're going to is supposed to be completed in 1994. Gets completed in 2004.
A whole decade later.
A whole decade later. And by the way, think about the things that happened in that decade. Mm-hmm. You first have the sanctions in the early 90s. You have the bombings, in the late 90s, and at the end of it. So many things happened from the time that this was supposed to be there, and there's a significance to. I can't remember what you were talking about earlier about this, like circling the wagons and feeling this. When Miroslav gave a presentation a while back and talked about how Jokic was the 5th or 6th greatest Serbian player in Serbian or Yugoslavian history, and we all kind of laughed at it, I kind of understand a little bit better what he's saying. And he's not saying the best player, which I think it's no question, in my opinion, the 2-time MVP is the best player. But he was trying to give a perspective here that I respect more and appreciate now more than ever. And it has to do with the 1995 team that won the gold medal at Eurobasket. And I want to rewind real quick and say that in 1988, they come in, Yugoslavia comes in second in the Olympics. It kind of kicks off the start of a 12-year run of greatness for basketball in Yugoslavia and then Serbia. They come in second in the Olympics. They win Eurobasket in 1989, and they win it easily. Easily. They dominate. They race through it. They win by 20 points over Greece in the championship game. In 1990, you go to the FIBA World Cup, and they get a win over the United States in 1990, and they end up winning the World Cup. So you win in 88, or you get second in 88. You win Eurobasket 89. You win FIBA in 1990, and then 1991 Eurobasket. This is when the war is starting to break out. They actually lose a player in the semifinal game. Somebody has to leave the team. A Slovenian player ends up having to leave. What's going on? Somebody's pants looking like they're naked again.
Let's go. We're ready. Tell us this history.
What happened?
It's chat stuff. Somebody called him Dave instead of Dad. But you stop. We're trying to listen. We are inquisitive. We think that this is important.
Wow. All right. 1991 Eurobasket, another one where they race through. They're a dominant team. So you're talking about a little legacy, a little three-peat we have going on in international competitions here. But in 1991, in the semifinal game, one of the players, a Slovenian player, is forced to leave the team. His home city is getting bombed, and it's really the breakup of Yugoslavia. They end up going on to win. They win the gold there, so it becomes a three-peat. The next year is 1992. Yugoslavia falling apart. And now Serbia is not allowed to compete, or I think at the time they're still going by Yugoslavia, but it's it shrunk at this point. Not allowed to compete in the Olympics. And I have to tell you something. Miroslav sat here, Milos sat right here, and both of them said, "Look, everybody talks about the Dream Team in 1992. This is a team that won 3 in a row in international competition, and by the way, they're all reaching their prime." They're all young at that point. They're entering their prime at 1992. This is international basketball. This isn't the NBA. 3 years in a row, they also were unchallenged en route to winning these golds, more or less unchallenged. And they say, look, I'm not saying they would have won. I'm saying I just wish we could have seen what happened if that team could have gone up against the Dream Team. And I know that's crazy. And it's funny because in the U.S., we saw the documentary, The Other Dream Team, about the Lithuanian team. And we think, oh, man, how crazy is it that Lithuania had a peak team at the same time that the U.S. had a peak team? And I never had really heard the story of the Yugoslavian team or Serbian team at this point, that if they just would have stayed together and been able to compete. And I have to tell you something, Miroslav, Milos, I love those guys. Their word doesn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things against people like Michael Jordan or what have you. Dr. Milan Doset said the exact same thing when we met with him. He said the exact same thing of like, you guys, listen, you don't understand, man. Like that team, they had a real chance against the
They had that dog
against the Dream Team. Against the Dream Team. Now, our American audience is going to scoff at this. Look, I don't know. I'm not alive. I just learned about this team this week, so how can I possibly tell you? But I want to go on to explain why this game, again.
Real fast, before you go too far. We didn't have this conversation, so this is our first time hearing it. We actually got to go to the Basketball Federation.
Yeah.
Serbian Basketball Federation. And they had the Yugoslavian team. They had pictures. They had signed jerseys. We got to see all that. It was me, Vogt, Kel, and Eric that, we went on our own adventure today. And also our tour guide, Stefan Popovich. He also brought up the same thing about, he didn't say that they would win. He was just like, I would love to see what that looks like or what that would have been, just to kind of gauge what type of team and how important that team truly was, because he's not saying that they would have won, but he's like, I think that they would have shocked a lot of people to see on a broader scale how good that team was and how, great Serbian and Yugoslavian basketball truly was.
And is it so crazy to think? I mean, the Dream Team was still a collection of the greatest players in the world. I still believe that. The talent was still greater, but it was still kind of a thrown together, like, let's do this. We're so great, we can do it. And I do think there's something to the FIBA game is different enough that it lends to these differences that, hey, man, it takes – and then you're talking about a team that just won 3 golds in a row. Like, this was a team that was forged, that was formed. You get into 93. So 92, they couldn't compete in the Olympics. 93 Eurobasket, couldn't compete in Eurobasket. 94 FIBA World Cup, couldn't compete in that one. And in this entire time – as they're sort of out, abandoned, right, by the global community in large part, Greece agreed to train with them. And in large ways kept them fit, kept them together, allowed them to kind of keep their program going so they weren't just sitting on their hands for all these years. So they would train with them and do different friendlies and this or that. And that brings us to 1995 when finally sanctions are lifted, you're allowed to go back and compete, and we get into Eurobasket 1995. And where does it take place? In Athens, Greece. Mm-hmm. And in the semifinal game, a very contentious game, Greece actually gets eliminated by Serbia. So this team that you had trained with that had been kind of friendly to you, all of a sudden you beat them in a contentious game, and boy, did Athens turn on Serbia, booing them. A famous chant about you'll never lift the cup. I'm screwing this up, so I don't want to go too far into it because I'm screwing up the details here, I know for sure. But it becomes a very contentious thing, and what do we know about Serbians from before this? Not. Everybody's against us. That's when we dig in and we become the best. We're the underdogs. And you're going up against Lithuania, who's featuring Marciulionis, Sabonis, Arturas Karnisovas. This is their 2 European superpowers kind of at the height, meeting at each other in the final. And what do we get but Djordjevic going for, I think, 41 points, makes 9 3-pointers, I think, in that game. The game of his life. The game of his life on the highest stage. And you're thinking about this team that you wonder from 1991 all the way to 1995 what could have been. And they finally get back on the stage, slight underdogs in this, and they have the best game of their career, this incredible underdog story, this resilient story, and they get the win there. And I just think it was such a cool story that I hadn't heard. And for me, it sets the stage because when Voja and Miroslav and these guys are talking about greatness in Serbian basketball players, this is a big part of it. Is yes, they're club teams, and they've had different guys go off and do great things, but this idea of like, yes, but when we come together and we get to express basketball in the truest way that Serbians know how, this is kind of one way that we measure our own greatness. And those guys that did that on that stage as underdogs and with the backdrop of those things happening, by the way, in the world, that means something a little bit different. So I find a interesting full circle. And you have different eras later on. The golden generation later, they get the wins in 2002 and later on in the 90s and this or that. And you have different people that have kind of stepped in there. And it brings me to this. Coach Pesic is one of the iconic coaches in Serbian basketball history. This is sort of his swan song. He's back now with this national team, most likely for a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows, but it won't be long. Jokic, this is the first time he's been the guy with the Serbian national team. Last time he played, Teodosic was there. They had some different guys. To me, this feels like a bit of a full circle moment in some ways, that we're going back to Stark Arena, that we're going back to this site that, represents in some ways, at least to me, I don't know if it does to Serbians, but I'm looking at it and I at least can see this storyline of it represents this like lost opportunity of 1994. And I think that it's just kind of interesting as a reset and an opportunity for Jokic to go out and do this. I'm not trying to put the pressure on him. It's a team game. This isn't an individual thing. But I do think it's something interesting that we're seeing what I perceive to be the best player in Serbian history in this moment in time, now going up against Greece, by the way, of all teams, for this World Cup qualifier, and an opportunity to kind of put a stamp on this new generation and lead them into new ways. And I just thought, when I learned these stories, I almost want to cry, like hearing about these things, because I see it and I'm like, man, this is a really good story that I think provides context that people back in the U.S. that are like, there's a game, what time's it on, this or that. And you think like, man, the roots run deep here for this specific game that most people in the U.S. don't even know about.
I mean, that's a very, very well told story of something that's like, there is what we just sort of like very loosely were talking about, that just the pride, the long narrative, like what all of these things mean. A sporting event can be so much larger than the, just the fans in the stadium and then the cheering and the this and the that. Like, it is, all of this is coming to all of us in various ways and at various levels. The longer that we're here is just sort of understanding not only our place in the world, but sort of like the larger story of the world itself. I mean, especially for people from America, we are so isolated. We have almost nothing in common with any of our neighbors. I mean, we have Canada, we have some similarities with. We have almost no similarities with our neighbors to the south because we weren't nationally or naturally formed. We just sort of like appeared there, and so we've just been left to create our own environment and our own storyline. This is so much different over here. Like, this is the story of the entire human race in a way, and so it's like so interesting to dive into it and understand just the gravity of things that seem trivial from afar.
Like, all jokes aside, you make the comment about wanting to cry. Like, that one meant something to you. That one you were passionate about, emotional in a way, and it's great to see like how much you truly care. I think it's great to see how much they understand how much you truly care, putting in that extra work to tell their story, to say their struggles and put it out loud. Like, that means a lot, I know, to a lot of people, and really that's why we're here. That's truly why you're here, and you brought us here to experience it all and to know it at a different level. That was great. That was great, and I just appreciate it all, truly.
Kale, cue that outro music. So it's one of those things, like, we came here. not that outro music there, Vote. Like, we came here to learn a lot of things. Like, a lot of you guys, you've been following us most closely, I imagine, on social media and through the show and this or that. And so much of what we've been doing is like, shots of rakia. Hey, let's have some pieskavica. Like, it's like crazy, like this or that. I want you to know that there's been a lot going on besides that. Like, that's been a big part of it, man. Everybody's embraced us and this or that, but there's been a real education that's been going on, and some of that education has been coming through rakia, through the different food and this or that. But some of that education has also been through those conversations that we had at 3 o'clock in the morning. Every single night I've been out till 3 o'clock in the morning. It hasn't just been because we've been doing shots or this or that. It's because a lot of times when you're doing shots or this or that at 11 o'clock, at least the conversations at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And these conversations that I hope you guys forgive me. I saw some people in the comments like, Adam, you might want to check the notes or this or that. Like, I might have missed a detail here or there. But the general sentiment, I think, is right that, we do have this better understanding, like in between all of the fun and all the good times, like there's been a real sense of like education for all of us on not just the basketball, but how those roots really run deep. And I know the people of Serbia have been thankful for us coming out here because they've shown us that gratitude. But we are equally, if not more, thankful for the education that we've received through all of this emotional education, basketball education.
And the rakia is education. It reminds you to enjoy life. There's so much pain in the world. There's so much difficulty that you come through, and it's like you also have to celebrate things. You also have to be reminded of like what is important on so many levels.
One person said, "That was great, Adam, but I still prefer Eric."
I typed that.
That was you? Guys, we do have a show. We have one last day here. Come meet us out. Throw it up on the screen again. Where are we going, Kel? What was it called again? Do you remember the name of this place? I don't remember. Throw it up on the screen one last time so that everybody can see. Come out and hang out with us. 4:30 tomorrow. We're going to be there. If you have to be there a little late, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
No. There's no such thing as late.
We may,
unless we're gone. Then you're late.
Don't have tickets to the game?
It's possible.
It's possible. Check Twitter. We may have a ticket or two. We may have a ticket or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to get.
It's possible. We're not promising.
We're not promising that. I'm just saying it's a possibility that can happen. So we hope to see everybody out tomorrow. Our last day here. Come say hi. Come give us a hug. Let's hang out. Hit that like button on the way out, everybody.
Jivali.